Hello friends, and welcome to another video from my series Quick Thoughts On, in which I always talk about different stories from the rich Star Trek universe. In the case you have seen my last, I think, 4 videos on my channel, you know what this video is going to be about. Yes, it's going to be about the next episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, called Sins of the Father. And I have to tell you, this episode is kind of messy. It feels like 2 different stories mechanically merged together. Why? Well, it has probably something to do with the fact that that's exactly what happened. These were originally 2 different unfinished stories, both of them were Klingon related, and none of them went anywhere. Season 3 needed filmable scripts, so the Season 3 showrunner, Michael Piller, has decided to give both of them to the new staff writer, a rookie named Ronald D. Moore, who has earlier that year written episodes like The Bonding, The Defector, and he also worked with the rest of the writing staff on yesterday's Enterprise. He has joined both of the story ideas into one script. The funny thing is that he, as the rookie, was given a much more experienced writer, W. Reed Moran, to oversee him, but Moran was actually fired after delivering the first draft. So a lot of behind-the-scenes drama happened, and unfortunately you can feel it in the final product. The episode starts with a new commander coming to the Enterprise, a Klingon commander named Kurn. In the previous season, Riker was an officer on a Klingon ship, so now the Klingons wanted to send one of their officers to a Federation ship. Kurn volunteered, and he specifically chose the Enterprise. And as a typical Klingon, he has problems adapting to a mostly human crew. He shows everybody, except for the captain of course, how much he doesn't like their work, and he drives everybody crazy with his demands. The only crew member who would not have a problem with Kurn being a tough boss is also the only crew member who Kurn is nice to, Mr. Worf. Kurn goes out of his way to be nice to him, and that is what is driving Worf crazy. So as soon as you start to think that this is what the story is going to be about, this first story actually stops and a second one starts. When Worf comes to challenge Kurn to a duel, Kurn tells him why he actually came to the ship. He is his long-lost younger brother. When their parents took Worf to Khitomer, they left Kurn with Mok's friend, who later adopted him and took him to his house. That's why everybody thought that Mok's family line died out at the Khitomer attack, but now the Klingons have captured a Romulan ship, got access to some secret Romulan documents, and found out that somebody from the Klingon colony has hailed the Romulans right before they attacked them. And the Klingon High Council claims that that somebody was Mok, which means Worf, as Mok's oldest son, now has to challenge the accusations. However, if he fails, he himself, as the son of the traitor, will lose his life. So the Enterprise flies to the Klingon homeworld, known at this time as, well, the Klingon homeworld. A few shows later it will be called Kronos, Q-O'-N-O'-S, pronounced of course Kronos, and we see some beautiful matte paintings, and we meet the Klingon High Chancellor K'mpec, who looks suspiciously too much like the Klingon General Kord from the movie Star Trek V, and the villain of this episode, Duras, son of Jarod. And this is basically the rest of the story, Duras versus Kurn and Worf. Despite trying to keep it a secret, Duras finds out who is the real father of Kurn. He tries to talk to him, but when the talking fails, he sends his men to kill Worf's younger brother, but these assassins fail. thanks to Dr. Crusher's competent hands, Kern will live. But Worf will need a new Chadij, which is his kind of a fighting sidekick. He asks Picard, who takes it as a huge honor and helps Worf, while the Enterprise crew tries to find more information about what happened on Khitomer. Geordi and Data obtain logs from the USS Intrepid, the first Federation ship which arrived to the scene, and after a small investigation they find out something very unexpected. There was one more survivor, an old woman named Kallist, who was working for Mog. So of course, as soon as they find out she's still alive and tells her address to Picard, he leaves to try to talk to her. She, however, is not interested in helping them, even though she was proud to serve Mog's family, and even the Chancellor Kempek was interested in her. So Picard leaves, but even he himself gets attacked by Klingon assassins. So we have a group of professional warriors fighting a 50-year-old man. It ends exactly as you might think. Picard gets his ass kicked. But to add insult to injury, something even more embarrassing happens. Picard's life gets saved by a 150-year-old woman, Kallist. She stabs the professionally trained soldier and kills him with no problem at all, and I'm trying not to laugh. She looks like she will die if you breathe close to her, but nope, she's the winner. Okay, not sure if this is really stupid or really clever, but I honestly thought it was funny. So now for some reason she changes her mind and she wants to be the witness at Worf's trial. Picard and her arrive at the basically final moment, as soon as they wanted to declare Mog, and therefore also Worf, a traitor, and a request to speak. But Kempek calls them all to his office when we finally find out the truth. Duras threatens to murder the old woman for daring to speak, and he does it in front of Kempek, Worf, and Picard. Duras is not very smart. Kempek sends her home. She tells him that he's still too fat for her, like a real lady would, and the men now get to talk. The traitor was actually the father of Duras. Oh my god, are you trying to tell me that the only man who behaves like he's the villain is actually the villain? What a twist! So the accusation of Worf's father was actually a conspiracy. Yes, somebody call Alex Jones on this one. The Klingons got the Romulan chip and the logs absolutely proved that somebody from the Klingons sent a transmission to the Romulans just before they attacked, and actually it was the father of Duras. Why did he help to start the attack in which he himself died? I don't really know, maybe Duras isn't the only dumb man in his family, but Duras's family is very important for the Empire, somehow, so it would be a huge political problem if they were exposed as the family of a traitor, so the Chancellor has decided to blame it on Mog. They thought that Worf was his only surviving son, and because he was living with the humans, that decision would have no real impact on him. Wow. I honestly wouldn't expect something so scummy from a race which is all about honor. Horrible, horrible people. But we're talking about politicians, and politicians are supposed to be scummy, so maybe it is a fair portrayal. But Picard is not able or willing to just step aside and let his officer be executed, especially for something he didn't do. It's almost like the TNG version of Picard was still a highly moral man. So he starts threatening Federation's intervention, but Mr. Worf stops them. He is willing to die. He wants to die for the Empire. See, moments like this are a reason why Worf belongs to the most beloved characters. There is something in this Klingon guy which speaks to me. I love all of these talks about honor and things like that, but they come with something else, something better. Worf will volunteer to accept his so-called discommendation if Kern will be kept alive and his true identity a secret, which technically means that Mock will still be considered a traitor, and Worf will be ceremonially shunned, stripped of honor, and he will keep just a very few limited rights in their society. In the end, everybody turns their back on Worf, including his brother, and the episode ends with the promise of a sequel. This is one of the stories which is incredibly hard to rate. As I said in the beginning, this is not really a story. These are two different stories, just almost mechanically merged together. The first one is really boring. Not bad, just boring. The second story is much better, but still far from perfect. But still, even though the structure is kind of messy, it's still a must-see episode, because it opens the universe, and events which this started will have a huge effect on the whole franchise. You will see stories which are basically a sequel to this, until the end of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. So even though this episode is far from perfect, I still consider it to be essential viewing for the franchise. On my standard scale from 0 to 10, where 0 is complete garbage, 10 is a masterpiece, and 5 is just average, I will give this episode 6 out of 10. Its biggest problems are in the beginning. I'm sorry, but the opening is just boring and completely gives a wrong impression. It is also way too long, therefore the rest of the episode just doesn't have enough time to develop the story and the characters properly. For the last 2 weeks I have posted analytical videos about this episode, including an analysis of the so-called Cut 4, and I must admit that the earlier cut is simply much better, mainly because it's longer and includes a bunch of pretty important scenes. I think it's a pity they stopped doing extended versions of the episodes after The Measure of a Man. But anyway, as always, these were all just my opinions. Let me know what do you think about this episode. Do you agree with my rating or think I was completely wrong? Let me know down in the comment section. If you like this video, please hit that thumbs up button and consider subscribing if you're not yet. Thank you very much for watching and see you very soon. Bye.